So in conjunction with the redesign of the 2025 Equinox, you also have not only a new exterior, but an all new interior as well. So let's check that out right now.
MOTROLIX.
So here is the cabin. This is the RS model. You essentially have a black interior. The name of the colorway is black with red accent stitching, and there is some blue here as well. So at the door card, you have essentially two materials at the top. This material here, which is soft, it's kind of like this vinyl grade, very nice soft material. It's good if you drive with your elbow over here on the actual sill, then this is nice and soft. Right ahead of it, however, is this material, which, as you can tell, it's hard. This is actually a very good way to do it. Have this part here that the driver will sometimes put their elbow on, have this part here soft, have this here hard, because no one in their right mind would ever actually touch this or use this as any other kind of cushion. Here is the door release handle, door locks, seat memory, as well as the easy ingress and egress button there. This material with the nice pattern, I really like this pattern here. It's soft, it carries down until the armrest right there. So the armrest, as a result of this material being soft, the armrest here is also soft, which is great news. Here you also have this insert with this pattern here. You can see it's kind of like a boomerang of sorts there. Here are the controls for the windows. As you can see, only the driver's window is one touch up and down. The other windows are one touch down, but they are not one touch up. That includes the front passenger window as well as the two rear windows. Ahead of that, you have the window controls, you have the mirror controls. These are power mirrors, and then you have some piano black trim right here, along with the red stitching and the blue stitching below it. Very tastefully done on the stitching side. Everything below this line is now hard. So this material here is hard, this panel here is hard, along with the speaker grill here hard as well. You do have a nice cubby here for storing some things, including a bottle holder right there, along with a few other odds and ends right there. And as you can see, if I extend my hand into there, this storage cubby actually runs all the way to the back of this part here, so it is deeper than its opening. You have the trunk release here, and then let me really quickly show you the speaker grill, because I do like the way that the speaker grill is treated, the overall texture in general. As you can also tell, the door, it actually extends lower into the fascia, into the side of the vehicle actually, and that really helps with not getting this part of the vehicle dirty, since the door covers that when you close it. As you can see, this is the rear door, it covers all of this. This enables the driver or any of the other vehicle occupants to get in and out of the Equinox without, dirtying their pants, their legs, what have you. All right, and that brings me to the interior. Okay, let's start with the materials here at the top of the dash. So the furthest material all the way up there, which I will never be able to reach in my life unless I did one of these maneuvers, which is already quite uncomfortable. This material is hard. You have some speaker grills here, and they are, if you notice, they are finished in that same texture that this insert has. So it's that little boomerang, tri-spoke boomerang texture that is present and accounted for essentially here, as well as all the way across the dash toward the front passenger side of the dash there. Beyond that, this material, the primary dash material, it is soft. You get the idea. This panel is soft, which is great news. And then you have this part here. This is the same material that we saw earlier on the door. This is also soft. Look at it, soft. Yep, very nice, soft. And as we make our way over across to the passenger side, it's the same thing. Soft. And you have this piano black finish here, this insert, that actually turns red in conjunction with the actual vent on the passenger side of the vehicle there. I do have the same vent over here. You can see the enclosure there. It has a nice red color to it here. The enclosure overall is nice. And check this out. So this is the same kind of vent that we've already seen on, I believe, the Blazer EV as well as the Equinox EV. So not only does this look nice, and it does have a nice visual flair to it, but it also feels nice when you begin to adjust it. So whether you're adjusting it this way, this way, this way, this feels great, and it does not feel chintzy, which was the case for the last gen Equinox's AC vents. Every time I adjusted them in the last gen Equinox, I thought that I was going to break them off in some way, shape, or form. So this is smooth, it feels solid, and when you close it like so, it also feels solid, and it delivers a nice audible click. Listen to this. Very, very nice execution of the AC vents. If Chevy were to use these AC vents across most, if not all of its lineup, I would be perfectly content with that. Coming back to this material here, there it is. It is soft, and you do have the red and the just the red stitching here. You don't get the blue on this part of the actual dash. Below that, you do have some buttons. So this is the electronic parking brake. This is the button that enables all-wheel drive for models equipped with all-wheel drive. If you do not press this button, then the vehicle will simply remain in two-wheel drive, meaning front-wheel drive. If you do press it and give it a second, it will switch over to all-wheel drive. This is the auto hold button there. Engine automatic stop start. You can turn that off, although it does reset when you restart the vehicle, the engine rather. And then this is the cabin dimmer and brightness. As you can see, there are no headlight controls here. These have been relocated to the center stack display. They are quite easily accessible. If you press this button, there they are. You can go off, auto, running lights, or turn them on entirely. I'm just going to switch that back to auto. Everything else over here, these are all hard materials now, so anything essentially below the hip line, it's hard in the Equinox. This here is a nice little cutout panel, but it does not open, so there is no storage over here. And then down here at the very bottom, you do have the hood release right there. Okay, that brings me to what is exactly and immediately in front of the driver. And there is quite a bit of things over here taking place, starting with, like I mentioned earlier, the 11-inch DIC, the Driver Information Center, otherwise known as the gauge cluster. This thing is bright, this thing looks good, this thing is quite functional. You can control it via this button right here. So if I press it, you can get themes and different features in here. This currently is the map, so I can have the map in here. I could have the this kind of dash, this kind of setup, or I could have just a simple calm one as well, like so. I prefer this one. You do have the tach here, boom, boom, boom. All right, very good. You have the date and the time, you have the audio information and the necessary information at the bottom of the screen there. So that is the 11-inch DIC. Let's take a look at the steering wheel. And the steering wheel here is quite nice. This is a leather wrapped wheel. I'm a big fan of the way this wheel looks and the way it feels in the hand. As you can tell, this is a 3-spoke steering wheel. So you have a spoke at the 9, you have a spoke at the 3 o'clock, and a spoke at the 6 o'clock position as well. And then notice how the steering wheel has a flat bottom over here. So if I turn it, I think you can actually see it better, but it has a flat bottom there. As you can see, it has some red stitching on the inside of the wheel itself. Very well done. And that actually continues towards the bottom. And then there's some piano black finish at the 6 o'clock here, RS badging within it. You do have the black badge here, the black Chevy bow tie, along with the silver outline there. That looks very nice. Here are your essentially your infotainment controls, along with your phone controls, heated steering wheel, which is standard on the 2025 Equinox, and then here are your cruise controls. And then there are also paddle shifters right here and right here. But the only way to use them is if you press this curious button on the steering wheel, which is the L button, L for low. So let me show you how to use that. First, I will shift to drive. So the PRNDL indicator is showing that I am in drive. And then I will press the L, and that will show that now I am in L1. And then from here, I can essentially pull on the paddle right here, and you'll see that move to L2, L3, and then I can go the opposite way, L2, L1. So those are the paddle shifters. But again, you can't just use them as you're driving and drive. You can't just start using them. You can't just start pulling on the paddles. You have to first go to L, and then that will open up the ability to use the paddles. Now, this vehicle does not feature or offer Super Cruise at all, but you do get adaptive cruise control here as well, which is, you know, I don't know, maybe 60, 70, 80% of the way there to Super Cruise. Let's move on into the center stack. So over here we have the 11.3-inch center infotainment display, along with a physical volume knob right here. You can twist it, there it goes. So that feels very nice. It has some nice clicks and detents to it. Every time I turn it, it clicks. All right. And it also has a physical power button on it. So if I hit that, it will essentially mute it. If I hold it, it will give me this calm mode with the temperature, the ambient temperature, along with the time and date, the light controls for the vehicle stay, along with the indicator for the signal, the cellular signal of the vehicle. As you can see, that is a 5G icon, meaning that the 2025 Equinox features 5G instead of 4G. This is the latest generation of GM's infotainment systems, the ones with Google built in. It also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I don't have anything connected to the system currently that would be compatible with these two technologies. That's the reason these are grayed out, but the technology is most certainly there. Right below the screen, we have two side-by-side AC vents here. These adjust like this, and if you listen, they also have, just like the outboard ones here and here, these also have a nice detent. So if I close them out, just listen. Very nice. These no longer feel chintzy either. Chevy has really come a long way in terms of designing and implementing the AC vents, which is, it seems like a minor mundane detail, but I think it's quite important because drivers, occupants, they interact with the AC vents probably every time they get into a vehicle. Okay, below that, we do have this same material that we had earlier on the door, along with here on the dash. We have that same material here, right here, running the length essentially of this panel around the engine stop start button, which is still a physical button. By comparison, many of Chevy's new generation Ultium based EVs are eliminating this button. So again, this soft material, very nice, red stitching all the way through towards the passenger side of the dash. Below that, you do have some nice piano black finishing here, and you also have a whole bunch of buttons. And guess what? These buttons are physical, tactile buttons, which is great news. These buttons, the HVAC controls, essentially, they have not been relocated to the screen. They have not been relocated elsewhere. They are here. They are physical. And this is one of the things that makes me really, really happy and makes me really like the interior of the 2025 Equinox. As you can see, this is the RS model, which means it has dual zone climate control. You can adjust both by turning the knobs like so and like so. They don't feel chintzy, they don't feel cheap. These feel and look very good. You do have the temperature indicator inside of the actual rotary dial there, which is great. And then you have all of the other HVAC controls there, including seat ventilation for the driver, seat heating for the driver, same seat ventilation for the passenger, and seat heating for the passenger. You can sync two zones. So if you have, for instance, this zone at some other temperature and you have the drivers at low, if you just press this, it will sync the passenger side to that of the driver as far as the temperature is concerned. Here you have the vent speed, so you can increase and decrease like so, and the auto setting for the fan speed as well. Here you can turn on and off the entire HVAC system. You have AC on or off, that toggle there. The direction of airflow, so that's defog towards the body, essentially these vents here, or towards the legs. You have air circulation, you have max defog, and then you have the rear defroster. Very, very, very good setup as far as HVAC controls are concerned. And then below that, you have this cubby right here, which has a USB-A and a USB-C port. Both of these ports connect to the actual infotainment system up here. And again, this is a nice storage cubby, so you have space to store all kinds of things in here. And then right behind that, you have the center console. And the center console has quite a bit taking place here. The first thing it doesn't have taking place is an actual physical shifter anywhere in the center console. That's because this shifter has been moved to the steering column right here. And for anyone who has experience with GM's latest vehicles, including its electric vehicles, they'll probably be very familiar with this shifter. This is a digital shifter. It doesn't have any physical linkage to the transmission or to any other kind of controls. All it has is essentially a cable that runs to the ECU, which tells the vehicle which drive gear to be in. All right, so that is the shifter. And as a result of moving this shifter over there, this whole area opened up with all kinds of space. So you have an inductive phone charger right here. You have up-down style or vertically oriented style cup holders with very big cutouts, by the way. These are not small by any stretch, so that's good news. And then right to the other side of it, you have the drive mode selector right there and a little storage area right here. Again, notice that boomerang style pattern that we saw earlier over here and up there on top of the dash. Let's take a look at the actual center armrest. So over here we have this same pattern here that we saw here, that we saw there, and there, all across here. Well, this pattern now can be found on the center armrest, along with red and blue stitching right there. It looks very good, very tastefully done, and it's also quite soft to the touch as well. I can tell that there is a hard material right underneath this, but this has enough cushioning to make this a comfortable armrest. So now if I open it up, let's see what we have inside. And what we have is this tray, which you can use to store things, and you can also remove it like so. In addition to that, you have this very deep well, but as you can see, there is no ports inside of this. So whereas in the past, you might have gotten ports, USB ports in here, maybe a 12 volt, all you have here now is this very deep well, but no ports whatsoever. So that is the center armrest. Let me show you the overhead console, because this is also new on the 2025 Equinox. This looks a lot better than it did in the past, because the controls were kind of all over the place on the last gen Equinox, and I wasn't really a fan of this entire area. Well, this has now changed. It's been redesigned, and I guess we could start with the sunglass holder here. That is present and accounted for, along with this area. So this contains some buttons for sunroof control, so you can slide the sunroof, you can tilt it, and you can also control the sunshade right here. Here you have overhead reading lights. Again, these are LED. The entire 2025 Equinox features LED lighting. And in addition to that, here you have the OnStar controls and the hazard button right there, along with the passenger airbag indicator here. All right, right below that, you have the rear view mirror. In this case, it's currently running the rear camera mirror feature, but if you don't want that, you can simply snap it back like so. I personally am a big fan of the rear camera mirror, so I will leave it. Okay, here you have the visors. The visors are your typical GM fashion visors, which you can adjust and move and extend. Notice that the bar is metal, which is great news. This is not plastic. They didn't skimp out on the actual bar. So I can put that back. The vanity mirror, there it is, like so. 2 LED lights on each side of the mirror. Great. And that brings me to the seats. Let me show you those. The seats are quite comfortable. I've been driving this vehicle now for just about an hour. Essentially drove it from Minneapolis to somewhere in Wisconsin. And let me tell you, these seats have done a great job in bolstering me and supporting me, and really in delivering a good amount of comfort as well. These are black seats, but Chevy does give them some red accents. Check this out here. So here is the actual headrest with the RS logo. It has blue stitching around it. And as you can see here, it is very, very, very soft, which is great news. Now these headrests are capable of being adjusted up or down, but they have no tilt function. So it's up and down only. They don't go back and forth. And then the rest of the seat, check this out. Look at the way that this red stitching takes place right there. You can also see the red piping along with the red and black accenting through here. You do have that blue stitch over here and another what looks like a black stitch around this part. So there is quite a bit of detailing taking place within the actual seat itself as far as colors are concerned. And the texture, the same thing goes for the texture. Check out the texture here. You have this nice, I'm not quite sure if this is like a parallelogram or something similar, but you do have that here on the seat back as well as on the seat cushion itself. You also have the red stitch that starts up here. It follows all the way down into the bolster. And then you have the red and blue stitches. They run from this part all the way into the middle of the bolster, all the way to the bottom there. And then the same pattern is essentially repeated here at the seat cushion. So what we saw over here gets carried over, including the red stitching, including the blue stitching, including some more red stitching here, and this black and red pattern over here. Here is a look at the interior from this angle, and I should also note this ledge here. So you do have some more storage space here now. This is great for purses, maybe wallets or things of that nature, and it's quite convenient to have another layer for storage over here. Here are the pedals, very simple: accelerator, brake. The accelerator is not floor mounted, it is top mounted, so make of that what you will. All right, and that brings me now to the rear seat. Let me show you that. So here it is, the rear seat in all its glory. I do have the front seat all the way forward right now, so that's why you don't have much space over here. But if I were to adjust this seat forward to roughly where I would drive at 5'9", I drive it right there, okay? And there you go. That's how much room there is. It's a healthy amount of room. You do get a little bit more room as a result of the slightly longer wheelbase and slightly wider track in the 25 Equinox. So as you can see, there is no hump over here at all. In fact, it is flat, completely flat, which is really, really good news. The way that essentially the drivetrain is integrated and buckled into the undercarriage, it essentially allows for this flat floor in the second row, which is obviously very helpful for those who need to slide across from maybe one end of the vehicle to the other, or for just those who are sitting there. And it's also quite useful if you're going to be putting things in here. For instance, if you want to transport a TV and you don't want to put it in the trunk, you can simply put it right there. I should also note that both of the rear seat backs have pockets right there and there. Some automakers have begun to eliminate those. Not the case here for the 2025 Equinox RS, which is great news. You do have AC vents for the rear passengers right there. That's also great news. And the outboard seats are heated. So this and that seat are both heated. Great news there as well. And then at the very bottom, you do have two USB-C charge-only ports right here at the bottom of the center console. As for the seat itself, let me show it to you now. There it is. It essentially replicates the color and patterning of the two front seats, just like so. Headrests, there's the actual seat. You have the same pattern there. You do have the ISOFIX anchors integrated very well into the back of the seat there. This is well done, and I'm sure that a lot of parents who will be using child seats will really appreciate this kind of easy access to the ISOFIX anchor right there. That's great news. And I should note that there is also this center armrest right here. There it is. You have the armrest and a side-by-side set of cup holders right here. And then beyond that, let's take a look at the door. Here's the door. It's the same kind of door card essentially as the front. So you do have this material here, nice and soft, with this very interesting patterning taking place. This is hard, soft here, stitching, red, blue. There's that boomerang style pattern here, the window controls, the actual door pull handle, and a little cubby down here along with the actual speaker grill. And that brings me to the sunroof, which is quite big in the 2025 Equinox. In fact, it spans the area right from the overhead console here all the way back to essentially above the heads of the rear seat passengers, like so. There it is. So that's very nice. Beyond that, at the rear seats, you do have a pair of overhead handles and an LED light right there. And we have some microphones there, here and here. Now, I know a lot of you have asked about how the rear windows, or essentially really the C-pillar, how it integrates with the rear windows. This entire part, what's going on? Does it block a lot of outward visibility from within the cabin? Does it not? Well, let me show you that right now. So you do get a small window back here. It's not that big. So you still have a window, but you do have this very thick section, essentially this very thick panel right there, which, you know, I guess it might block some visibility, but with all the cameras in this car, specifically with the overhead camera on the Equinox, I don't think that's such a big deal as it would have been had the Equinox not had the surround view camera option. Okay, and that brings me now to the trunk. Let's take a look at the trunk here. So I could either open the trunk via the actual button located right here. There it is. Show it to you. Yep, there it is. Or I can do so via the key fob twice right here on the key fob. Regardless, you do have quite a bit of storage space back here, even with the second row of seats upright. Let's take a closer look over here. So here is the trunk. You do have two LED lights there and another one there. Very nice. You have a 12-volt outlet on this side. There it is. And this load floor lifts up to reveal, whoops, it lifts up to reveal that right there, which is great. Below this, you still have the tire. So if you remove this, you have the spare tire right there. So you do have the dual tier load floor, and you don't sacrifice the actual spare tire as well, which is great news. So from a cargo capacity standpoint, the Equinox truly shines. You do have the ability to put in a privacy cover. You can see the cutout there for that, and here, along with here and here. And then there is some accessories that you'll be able to mount here, like a cargo net. And that, I think, brings me to the rear seat, which you can fold. So if I were to come over here, what's really cool is that Chevy also gave you some nice inserts here for the rear seatbelt buckles. So all I got to do is put that in here like so. There it is. It's now in. And then I can just pull on this button here. It's a 60-40 split folding seat, and it folds flat. And now if I walk over here, you'll be able to see just how much room you have. If I do the same on this side, this is the 40 side. Oh, that was already in there. Like so. Fold that. And now we have even more space to carry even bigger things. It doesn't fold fully flat, but it's very close to folding flat. Now, the actual hatch door, it is power operated. So if you want to close it, just press that and it will close it down just like so. A member of the Equinox's engineering team also told me that since the 25 model is a bit wider than the third gen, the outgoing last generation model, this enabled the team to actually increase the width of the rear hatch, thereby making loading and unloading wide, big things quite a bit easier into the new Equinox. And so there you have it, the interior of the all-new 2025 Chevy Equinox. This cabin is substantially improved. In fact, it's improved to very new levels and new heights for the Equinox. And it really finally brings the Equinox to a point or a spot in the segment where you don't really have to apologize much for its cabin anymore. You know, the prior gen had some hard materials, had a bit more hard materials than soft ones. This here, completely and entirely different. It's got a lot more soft materials, a lot more technology, a little bit more room, but the execution in general is really heads and shoulders above where the Equinox was prior to this all-new generation. For gmauthority.com and the MOTROLIX Network, I'm Alex Luft. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out more videos about the 2025 Equinox, along with all kinds of other cars right here on this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
MOTROLIX.